1045 The Team and 1045theteam.com. And joining us on the phone lines, he's our college basketball insider, Reid Forgrave. And Reid, we were going to talk about some of the newest additions to the New York Knicks, and we'll get to that in a second. But first, the news, Phil Jackson and the New York Knicks part ways. What do you make of this move that now Phil is no longer part of the Knicks organization?
It's the Knicksiest thing ever, isn't it? Let's wait until right after the draft, where Phil's the guy who decides what the this is a good draft. I think look, top 10 picks to me in this draft all could be all-stars, including Frank Ntilikina. So it only makes sense that they give Phil one more chance to shine and have him pick a guy who's perfect for the triangle offense, and then send him out to pasture. It's just so Knicksy.
Is there anything now that maybe has the more inclination that Carmelo and Kristaps Porzingis stay now that Phil's out of town?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think, to me, what Phil did with Porzingis over the past several weeks was reprehensible. Maybe he was playing mind games with him. I don't know. Maybe he was just trying to get some absolutely ridiculous haul for him, which is kind of what it sounded like when you look at what he was asking for Kristaps the Unicorn. I don't know, but it just seemed so dumb. The one guy who was the future of your franchise, to alienate him from your franchise. That, for that to be kind of like the last big thing that Phil did as the Knicks president, I think just underscores exactly how incompetent he's been in this job. As good as he was, as great as he was as an NBA coach, he is the exact opposite as an NBA front office executive.
Reid Forgrave, our college basketball insider, joining us here on 1045 The Team. And now we look towards the future for the Knicks and who could be the next president, the next GM. I'm going to toss this name out there first because I trust him. Any thoughts to the rumors that Reid Forgrave could be the next GM of the New York Knicks?
If I can get that, what was it, like 6-year, $50 million contract or 5-year, $60 million contract that Phil got, I think I would consider it. I got got a couple other things going on right now here in Minneapolis, but I might be able to make the move to Manhattan for that kind of money.
Good. We'll put you in consideration with a bunch of other people as well. I'm sure everybody here in the Capital Region wants a shot. We've had different people throw their hats into the ring, so we'll wait and see. Maybe as long as it's not Isaiah Thomas coming back. Is that possible, though? Because I've asked someone else about this today, too. Would you cross it off the Knicks list that Isaiah Thomas at least is being interviewed for this job again?
There's no way, right? There's no way. Such a disaster the first time around. I mean, I do wonder if this franchise is just cursed, or at least as long as James Dolan is in charge. To me, the one that makes the most sense is the name that we've heard about most over the past few hours, and that's Masai Ujiri, the general manager of the Raptors. He's a guy who has such extensive international basketball experience. I think that is so key in today's NBA, to be able to think outside the one-and-done American collegiate box. That one makes sense. I think I really like what he has done with the Raptors, has built them slowly, and all his trades have made sense. Kind of the exact opposite of Phil Jackson in many ways.
Let's get into the guy they drafted in the top 10, the New York Knicks, just a week ago now, and that's Frank Ntilikina. What can Knicks fans expect from Ntilikina?
Look, he's young, obviously, as any top 10 player in the NBA draft is. But he's long, he's big, he's like a 6'6" point guard with a 7-foot wingspan. The measurables on him are, I hate to use this word, but they are elite. The potential for him is, I think, near elite. Now, he needs to learn to become a point guard. He needs to work on his aggressiveness. He needs to work on a lot of things, just like any teenage basketball player. But what I love most about him is the way that he gets after it on defense. I believe De'Aaron Fox is the best defensive point guard in this draft, but I think Frank Ntilikina is a close second. So I know a lot of people have ripped on this pick, and I think it's because Phil made it and because Phil said, hey, he works for the triangle and he seems to actually want to play the triangle. So in a way, this kid is kind of cursed to begin with, that association with Phil Jackson. But I like this pick. When you're at that point of this draft, look, you could have taken Malik Monk, and he could be a home run in the NBA, but there are certainly questions around Malik Monk. You could take Dennis Smith, who is maybe the most explosive player in this draft, but certainly questions around him, around his consistency, around his work ethic, around his focus. Ntilikina is a little bit of a more unknown quantity, at least here in America. But when you look at the game tape on him, I think you see a guy who has just loads of potential.
College basketball insider Reid Forgrave joins us here on 104.5 The Team. Can Ntilikina and Derrick Rose work together, or does this mean the end of Rose in New York?
I mean, was there a beginning to Rose in New York? I don't really remember. I feel like he's been such a non-entity, and it was such a – I mean, that was a dumb trade to begin with. Like, why would you want a guy who has been so injured and who I think very clearly is past his prime just because of injuries? If you got Derrick Rose the MVP, man, that's a home run.
Mm-hmm.
But I just don't see, for a franchise that needs to, if not rebuild, at least needs to do some building, I don't see why you make Derrick Rose one of your centerpieces. It doesn't make any sense to me. To me, I know this is so hard in New York City, but the Knicks need to, look at Kristaps Porzingis, look at Frank Ntilikina, hopefully, look at someone like Willie Hernangomez and say, hey, these are our centerpieces. We are going to move on as best we can from these other terrible contracts, none worse than Joakim Noah. And I do think Derrick Rose is going to be a burden on this franchise's back. As much as I love what he used to be, he is not that player anymore. He is a maybe serviceable NBA point guard who's injured all the time. So to me, his future in New York is numbered.
I think your statements there agree with a lot of Knicks fans here. They're just looking for the future, things to be excited about, things to be building on for the future for sure. We had a chance to talk to Kelvin Sampson, the former coach, but still the coach of the Houston Cougars, and he coached Damian Dotson, their second-round draft pick. Could Dotson have an impact for the Knicks as soon as year one?
I mean, anyone who can shoot 44% from three-point land absolutely can have an impact in today's NBA. He's tall, he's long, he's strong, he's experienced. The ceiling, I don't think, is particularly high, but anytime you get a guy who can shoot like that, that's a valuable asset. That's a very valuable asset. One thing that I feel hasn't been talked about all that much, and I'm not sure if he talked to Kelvin Sampson about this. I'd be really curious what he did say. But Damian Dotson was involved in this very ugly situation that kind of ended his Oregon Ducks basketball career, involving a sexual assault with, I think, 3 basketball players. It was messy. It was ugly. I read the police report. Damian Dotson didn't come out smelling great, but there was one guy who, in that police report, was Brandon Austin, who seemed to be by far the worst guy in that. But you just don't want to be associated with something like that. So I don't know if Kelvin Sampson had anything to say to this. That, to me, is at least a small red flag, if not a big one.
You didn't have much to say about that. Also, Kelvin Sampson was the guy who coached LeVar Ball in college, and LeVar Ball now claiming that he could be Michael Jordan. We tried to stay away from topics like that with Coach Sampson. We tried to look on the bright side of things, but maybe things will turn around for Knicks fans. Reid Forgrave gave us some insight there. Reid, appreciate your time. We'll be talking to you again hopefully very soon. Take care, man.
All right, man. Keep the optimism.